going to start our city council meeting. We've got the invocation that will be led by Pastor Rob McKenna of the Bridge Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. Could all please rise.
Let's pray. Father God, tonight I'm reminded of your word that you spoke through Jeremiah when you said that I know the plans I have for you. They're plans for good things and they're not for bad things. They're plans to give you a future and a hope. And Lord, I pray that over our city tonight, Lord, that the plans that you have for this city are good, Lord God. And Lord, that your desire for us is to do good things through this city, that you have a future for us and a hope. And Lord, we see that. And so tonight, as this council meeting is beginning, I pray for our leadership. I pray for our mayor, our councilmen and women, Lord God, that you would guide them, direct them. Lord, I pray for wisdom and discernment over them and the decision making, Lord God. I pray for unity in our city. Lord God, we live in a time where there is so much division, that you would bring unity, that you would draw us closer together, Lord. We are better together. And so tonight, as we look to you, thank you for the safety of our city, that you watch over it, that you keep our first responders safe, Lord God, our firefighters and police officers. Thank you for our school teachers and administrators, Lord God. Thank you, Lord, so much for the city workers that take care of our city and keep it clean and keep it fixed and organized, Lord God. And Lord, we pray for the families of this community, Lord God, that you would strengthen our families, Lord, over moms and dads, husbands and wives, Lord God, over children, that you would watch over them. And Lord, thank you that as we live our lives, Lord God, that we would live them in such a way that it would bring glory to you. Lord, we pray this in your name. Amen. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor McKenna, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could do roll call, please.
Absolutely. Councilmember Giroux?
Here.
Councilmember Nickel?
Here.
Councilmember Perstock? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel?
Here.
And Mayor Boyles?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a special presentation. We are deferring the first one that we have on the agenda for Sergeant McEnroe, yeah. So we have a National Bullying Prevention Month, and we've got a proclamation that Councilman Nichols can read.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Accepting this proclamation tonight is going to be DEI committee member Christabel Viena, right? So at the end, I'll have you come up. We can take a picture. Whereas bullying is the aggressive use of power targeting another person or group of people with repeated unwanted words or action, hurting them emotionally or physically. And whereas bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and online through technology, and whereas various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of American children and adolescents annually, and whereas thousands of children and adolescents are affected by bullying annually in our community, and whereas targets of bullying are at increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower academic achievement, and dropping out of school. And students who are repeatedly bullied often fear such activities as riding the bus, going to school, interacting online, and attending community activities. And whereas children who bully are at a greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors, and whereas children who witness bullying often feel less safe, helpless to stop it, and intimidated. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 National Bullying Prevention Month, and encourage schools, students, parents, recreation programs, religious institutions, businesses, and the community organizations to be encouraged to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer for all children and adolescents. Christabel, you want to come up and get this?
Actually, Councilmember Nickel, to recognize this month and bring attention to it, Christabel recorded a video that we showed on our news channel and that we're showing on social media. So if we could show that first, then have.
I love that. Cue the video. You knew that it was in your...
Hello, my name is Christabel Viena, and I'm a proud El Segundo resident, parent, and invested member of the city's first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, also known as the DEI. As a member of DEI, I wanted to bring awareness that October is National Bullying Prevention Month. This month was established by Pacer's National Bullying Prevention Center in October of 2006 with the goal of creating a society that recognizes that bullying must and can be addressed through education and support. Bullying isn't limited to children on the playground. Parents can be bullied on the baseball field, teens can be bullied while walking home, colleagues can be bullied at the office, and community members can be bullied due to their gender, race, or ethnicity. We understand survivors can feel pain and trauma from bullying throughout their lives, and the impact of bullying can spread and build up to harmful and even dangerous levels. It will take all of us working together with courage, kindness, and empathy to address and prevent bullying in our community and beyond. At its meeting on October 4th, City Council will proclaim the month of October as National Bullying Prevention Month in El Segundo. El Segundo is a city of champions, from the Lakers to our El Segundo Little League All-Stars. And each and every one of us has the opportunity to be a champion for our kids and others impacted by bullying. Please explore resources like stopbullying.gov to learn more about how to identify, prevent, and safely stand up to bullying. Be a champion. Let's put in the work together to keep El Segundo a vibrant, welcoming, and safe community for all who live, work, and play here.
That's not embarrassing. Can I say a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to welcome you too.
Oh, great, thank you. Well, good evening. I'm honored to accept this proclamation recognizing October as National Bullying Prevention Month. As part of El Segundo's DEI committee, I look forward to working together to address and prevent bullying in our community. In addition to National Bullying Prevention Month, October is LGBTQ History Month. It is Italian American, German American, Polish American, and Filipino American History Month. Indigenous Peoples Day is next week, and I wish an easy, fast, and good year to those celebrating Yom Kippur starting this evening. There are so many opportunities to celebrate the many cultures, religions, and backgrounds of the people here in El Segundo who contribute and make the city great. Let's learn more about each other and take important steps to build a thriving, strong, and safe community that stands together against bullying. Thank you.
Great job, Christabel. Yeah, let's do a photo. And man, you have an incredible ability to smile while you're speaking the entire time. Do you know that? It's amazing, seriously. It's really good. You look fantastic. We were amazed. We were amazed how well you did. Amazed. When you told us you never did it before, we couldn't believe it. Here we go. 1, 2, and a couple more. 1, 2, and one more, and one for luck. All right, thank you. You know, also, Barbara, great job to your department and Darnell and Robert and everyone at El Segundo TV. We just continue to get better and better with the programming that we're putting out there. It's awesome. Thank you. Okay, next up, Councilmember Perstuck has something to read.
So it's a proclamation on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So whereas during the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we honor the courage and strength of over 3.8 million who are battling this terrible disease, and remember those loved ones whose lives have been affected by breast cancer. In memory of those we have lost, we pledge never to waver from our ongoing search for effective and innovative medical advancements to treat and prevent this disease. And whereas more than 287,850 women and approximately 2,710 men are diagnosed with breast cancer annually. While death from breast cancer has declined over time, it remains the second most common form of cancer and the second leading cause of cancer deaths overall among women, with a staggering estimation of 43,250 lives lost this year alone. And whereas regular breast cancer screening, including mammograms, clinical breast exams, and breast self-exams, also play an important role in breast cancer prevention and detection. And whereas, while there is currently no cure for breast cancer, researchers, organizations, and individuals are dedicating their time, energy, and resources to developing a cure to prevent future health issues and unnecessary loss of life from this devastating disease. And whereas this month and throughout the year, we take time to recognize the hardworking citizens, organizations, and healthcare providers working toward a cure, and we honor all breast cancer survivors and victims for their strength, grace, and perseverance. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the City Council of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it says we have no one accepting this award, but I do want to give this out in honor of a friend of mine who lives here in town who has breast cancer, has actually come back, and her name is Jo McFadden, so in her honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Perstook, and I know we've got some incredible companies in town working on this, this cancer dilemma worldwide. We got Kite Pharma and also Dr. Patrick Sinchon working on it, so hopefully we'll get some real cures or treatments that work forever. Thank you. All right, next up we have let's see here, where are we? Oh, we have a update on West Basin. So we have a West Basin drought update, and Mr. George, you have something to say there?
Yes, we do, Mayor. We do have an update from West Basin. We have joining us tonight, Board Member Scott Houston and the General Manager Greg Reed.
Welcome, you both.
Thank you. Let me grab this one. Okay, thank you. Thank you. First of all, you know, my pleasure to be here, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and thank you to your City Manager, Daryl, for both introducing myself, but also our new General Manager, Greg Reed, who is in the audience with me today. And Greg has been with us on the job almost 6 months. Most of you had the pleasure of meeting him in person on his first day of work at the Top Golf ribbon cutting. Sorry, excuse me, grand opening, ribbon cutting, exactly. So, you know, what a day to start your first day on the job, let alone here we are. So I wanted to come down and give you an update on what's going on with water right now in the state and what we're doing at West Basin, and just give you some updates here in the community too. So most of you, of course, are extremely familiar with West Basin, and our mission is pretty simple: to provide a safe and reliable supply of high-quality water to the communities we serve. And the great thing about this is that we have been doing this since 1947. So this year, West Basin is celebrating its 75th anniversary as a special district in the state of California. And the reason we were formed was because folks in the South Bay were overpumping groundwater back then. And so the only alternative was to form a regional water district to join the Metropolitan Water District to buy Colorado River water. So 75 years, our mission remains pretty much the same. Of course, we have diversified over the years. But one of the things that's exciting is we are doing a lot of different things to celebrate that anniversary this year. So I do bring you greetings from my 4 other colleagues, Directors Harold Williams, Director Gray, Director Alvarez, and Director Deere. You know, we each serve different parts of the West Basin service area, 17 cities, almost 1 million residents, 5 divisions. You all reside in Division 4, which I am blessed to represent, so that's the red area. Basically, I always say in our service area, for the most part, it's north of Rosecrans. As you kind of go up the coast, that is the Division 4 area. And we are, you know, really proud to represent so many wonderful and diverse communities across our region. And just to give you a big picture big water picture, if you will, is West Basin is the 4th largest member of the Metropolitan Water District. And the Metropolitan Water District basically consists of these member agencies. So Metropolitan serves almost 19 million Californians. Almost half of our state's residents in some way, shape, or form are dependent on that water that comes from the Colorado River or the Delta systems. And if you think about it, West Basin, we are almost 1 million residents. And by the way, one of my colleagues, Director Gray, she is the chair of Metropolitan Water District at this time, and so she is coming to the end of 4 years as chair of Metropolitan. So West Basin has a very big place at the water table, if you will, in Southern California water. One of the slides I absolutely love and always like to make sure that I include is, where does our water come from? So in our state, about 2/3 of the precipitation falls in the north, and yet most of our residents do live in the south. And excluding the Los Angeles aqueduct, which is purely for the city of LA, we are dependent in part on two other aqueduct systems. So one, of course, is the Colorado River Aqueduct, and then also the State Water Project. And the State Water Project brings water down from the Sierras, runs along I-5, and I think most of you are probably aware we are getting almost no water deliveries from the State Water Project. So districts just to the north of West Basin, such as Las Virgenes, up in the valley, for example, you know, they're down to watering 1 day a week, 15 minutes or less. I mean, they are, you know, very dependent on that outside source because the Colorado River system does not come in that way to touch them, if you will. So we are a little more insulated, but that doesn't mean we get comfortable in our area. And so speaking of that, you know, California, we're in the third consecutive year of drought. You know, 98% of our state is in a severe drought status. And at this time, all 58 counties are under state mandate for drought emergency conditions. And this is it's a haunting statistic, but January through June of this year were the driest first 6 months of the year recorded in the state of California. And of course, here's a fairly recent U.S. Drought Monitor photo of California. Lake Mead storage levels, you know this, you see the newspapers, you see it on TV. Obviously, it's very low outside Las Vegas. One of the things to note is both Arizona and Nevada have received supply cuts for 2022 and 2023. California has been a little insulated just with the nature of some of our agreements. However, it has been news recently that the states along the Colorado River were all being asked by the federal government to look at ways to reduce further consumption. So 2 to 4 million acre feet per year. Right now, the different states and the different water managers, including at Metropolitan and some of the other districts that pull water from the Colorado River here in California, are in negotiations to see how we can, unfortunately, look at how to conserve more than we already have done in the last year. So not to scare you, but that's just the reality of our situation. One thing I wanted to make sure that you're aware of is, you know, West Basin has been ahead of the game. And so as a matter of fact, almost a year ago, November 2022 of last year, West Basin, our board declared a level 3 when it comes to looking at our shortage contingency plan. So this is where we already looked ahead and said, you know what? We need our residents to consider saving somewhere between 21 and 30%. The governor was looking at 15%, but West Basin, we saw what could be coming down the pike, and I'm very proud that our board took an early action to get that information out and give our staff resources to do that. As far as the statewide prohibitions, and I'm not going to read this whole list, but for the most part, this is why we're looking at how the outdoor watering is very reduced and limited. About not washing vehicles if you don't have the nozzle on your hose, street cleaning, construction, site preparation, just different ways to conserve water the state is asking us to abide by, and watering of ornamental turf on public medians. Now, of course, if you have recycled water, you can continue watering as normal, but for a lot of our areas, not just in South Bay, but other cities, they don't have recycled water in those medians. So, of course, unfortunately, they have to let those go brown. And one other thing we always are focused on is how do we continue to take care of our trees. So, but these are the rules the state has asked us to abide by, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job in our area to do that. So again, in keeping with that ask that we did with a level 3 shortage, we're asking our residents and businesses to conserve up to a target of 30%. I am very happy to say, as a matter of fact, I got today the new numbers, because they always lag a little bit, but August of this year in the West Basin service area, we basically just hit under 15%. So we are basically in compliance with what the governor has asked, let alone we're well on our way to what we're trying to achieve, a lofty goal at West Basin. And again, the 2 days per week outdoor watering, 15 minutes or less, which you all have worked hard on in your community as well as all of our others. So those are the things that we are focused on. That other item, the removal of municipal ornamental turf, to set an example, that's also one of the programs that West Basin, we actually, besides, you know, the residential service area, taking out grass and providing a rebate to residents, but also municipalities, we have a great program so that you're eligible. So if it's a school district, if it's a city, If it's another special district, we have a special program to help assist you with taking out grass. On the historical side, West Basin, again, we have been leading when it comes to the reduction of water use across our area. So this chart shows back in 1990, upwards of 200,000 acre feet a year that we were using of potable water in the service area. By the time the 2020 time frame arrives, you can see we are considerably down, a little more than 125,000, give or take, acre feet of potable water. So the district has worked very hard over the years to conserve, and of course we applaud our residents and our leaders for helping us make that happen. Again, this shows the same story. Our residential per capita use, an average of all the cities and unincorporated areas we serve, as you can see, significantly reduced even just since 2014 to the year 2022 on how much water we're using daily as a group. Really quickly, most of you all, of course, are very familiar with the plant here in El Segundo. You are our host city of the Edward C. Little Water Recycling Facility, where we continue to do about 30 to 40 million gallons a day of recycled water. We're the only plant in the world that does 5 types of water in one facility, so that is our claim to fame. We are reopened to the public again, so our tours for the schools are back on. All of our public tours are back on, and when things are at full scale, we usually get around 13,000 visitors a year coming into El Segundo, and some of those are international visitors too to look at the plant. And then we have our different satellite facilities located in the South Bay, as well as over 100 miles of purple pipe. We do 5 types of water, from industrial use and refineries to groundwater replenishment, which is potable. You can drink that water, as well as all the outdoor irrigation water that I think most everybody in the South Bay is very familiar with, the purple pipe systems. Obviously, a great benefit of recycled water is it's a reliable supply. We're reducing discharge that would otherwise go from Hyperion out into the Santa Monica Bay. And of course, we are able to, this helps contribute to our seawater barrier program to protect from saltwater intrusion using recycled water instead of valuable imported water. So it's a tremendous story that the district has had over years, and I would say we're all a part of that. So kind of wrapping up here, by the way, our staff came up with a great tagline, I think, as we were getting earlier into the year into this drought, supercalifrugalistic. We have been trying to get that message out to the different cities we serve and try and tailor it to them. But basically, again, we're conserving, we're using water more efficiently, and also we're preserving our environment and make sure that we are continuing to have a sustainable economic base here in the South Bay and some of our West Side cities, but also when we look at the long term of, what we can do here helps alleviate some of that need for others too. A great, in my opinion, these are a great statistic because you guys know us for these programs, but if I was to just show you since 2015, we have provided over 12,000 rain barrels free to the residents of all of our communities. I'm gonna work my way down and back around. Provided residents over 1,500 conservation kits. We have worked on water use surveys and efficiency devices to a number of our restaurants and commercial kitchens. And I think that this was one of the best that I could ever bring to you would be our residents have removed over 3 million square feet of grass in our service area since 2015, 3 million square feet. That is a lot of grass that has been permanently replaced by drought-tolerant landscapes. And West Basin usually, from what I've seen of the numbers, has been one of the leading water districts in the Met system to take advantage of that program. So real quick on the back end here. The grass replacement rebate program, we are right now paying our residents at least $3 a square foot to take out grass. So West Basin, we put that extra dollar in on top of what Met will give. In some of our areas, we have programs that will give more, up to $4 and $5 per square foot in some of the different communities we serve. So you can go to our website and find more out about that. Half of the water used in our area, where all of us live, is for outdoor irrigation. So that's why if we reduce the amount of, just plain watering the grass or overwatering grass or taking it out permanently, that is why we can have significant savings up front. Rain barrels, everyone knows our rain barrel program. I think everybody loves our rain barrel program. We are continuing to give away rain barrels. This year, we're actually really early in the cycle. So Our remaining events are still coming up, and people can go on our website and sign up. You need to pre-register, but here in El Segundo on November 19th, we will be providing free rain barrels at our Edward C. Little Water Recycling Facility, and that is for Division 4 residents. However, every resident can go to any one of these that makes sense for them. So at this time, we're giving away 300 rain barrels at each of these events, and one of them already did happen up in the Palos Verdes Peninsula, I think about a week or so ago. Another great feature coming out of pandemic, so we did a lot of virtual programming, and the staff at West Basin was extremely, they just were so adept, and they met the challenges. And so we did a lot of virtual programming and different things that we're trying to still keep. And one of them is, we call it the West Basin Chat. So these are scheduled periodically, maybe every other month. They usually last about 30 or 40 minutes, but if you subscribe and you get on here, you'll have a live staff person at West Basin who will work to answer questions, give a brief overview of our grass replacement program, and it's been going really well. I think usually they have somewhere between 20 to 30 residents, oftentimes that show up. I mean, maybe 40 or 50 sign up, but your drop rate's not very, it's not very high. So we have had really good success, and I really applaud our staff for doing that. These are some conservation resources for everybody, certainly our public. So we've got our West Basin website, Metropolitan's website, as well as the SoCal WaterSmart website. And then I think this is near the end here, last but not least. So we are extremely excited to have our Water Harvest Festival again in person at the plant. For the last 2 years, we haven't been able to do that with the pandemic. But on October 22nd, that's our big open house. We have all kinds of fun things for families. We have food, we have nonprofit booths, we have all kinds of great educational opportunities, a costume contest. I think they're gonna have a live band this year, as well as it is our 75th anniversary, so we're gonna do some special programming. So, and probably I think the most important part is the plant is open to public. You can come take tours, you can come drink the water. So we are truly excited about this. We're trying to get that word out to everybody. I'm getting extremely good feedback across the region. So I think it's gonna be very well attended. I invite you all to be there. So October 22nd, a free event at the West Basin plant. And with that, I am finished and very happy to answer any questions you might have. And by the way, that's my email address up there that goes straight to me. So if anyone wants to get a hold of me or residents want to get a hold of me, please by all means email me. And I do appreciate your time and your partnership with us at West Basin. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Houston. Any questions from my colleagues? Are you ready? First, I think this is probably the first question you generally get on grass replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Fake grass remains ineligible for the subsidy, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's probably the question, the first question you always get, so if we have a public forum, might be worth it. Second, can you speak to the quality of the recycled water that you're getting from Hyperion? It's at 40 million gallons a day. I know we spent a lot of time with getting unusable water that we had to clean retroactively. Is that still an issue?
To my understanding, the water quality has, for the most part, gotten back to where it was. And yes, that was it was a very difficult situation for us to deal with. So, the plant was not built or designed for that type of water that was coming in. And we did have to transition a lot of our customers to potable water during that time, as well as, yes, we had, more odors, we had membranes that got fouled, et cetera, et cetera. So, as far as I know, when we get our monthly reports and our staff reports to us, no, the water quality has come back up, Councilman. And at the same time, even when I'm over at the plant, physically, you can smell the difference back to what we are more accustomed to, let alone what I can see in the plant. So, but we do monitor it every month, let alone, obviously, if there are spikes or certain things, we work with Hyperion on that to address it.
Thank you. I think that's valid because we get a number of questions up here, as you can imagine, about the scenario with Hyperion, and there are incremental improvements that have occurred with efforts for it, and that was one that was driven by you all by causing attention to the fact that you had to purchase potable water to replace the unusable water you were getting. I have a question about the 125,000 acre-foot that we're currently getting in now. Is that continual decline what drove the move away from desalinization?
That's a huge part of it. Oh, yes. Yeah. The district is using less potable water year over year, and what that is, of course, is the water we buy from Metropolitan. So when you look at our numbers, let alone in our urban water management plan, when we looked at that, you know, for 25 years out, and it did not include desal, as a matter of fact. So it showed that we're using less water coming into this system here. So it's a point to be proud of, but yet at the same time, you could see economically why that option probably no longer need to be looked at. And so the board has made a decision to no longer pursue it.
But that's expensive water, but is it possible that our metropolitan water supply will continue to get more expensive too? Will there be a
yes.
point in time where we will look and see if that inflection point makes that economically viable?
Probably, maybe someday. I don't know when. But, you know, the biggest thing right now that we can do is more recycled water. So, you know, as the city of Los Angeles looks at what Hyperion can do in the future, and how is West Basin a part of that, so we can minimize any discharge going to the ocean. Plus, next door in Carson, at the Carson LA County Regional Plant, they're also going to look at a major recycled water facility. So there are many options that make a lot more economic sense, while Met Water will, yes, continue to escalate in price, but also looking at the two aqueducts coming in, a lot of times, well, there's uncertainty. How much water are you going to get every year from both systems, or just one at a time? So if you think about these two neighboring facilities, and then what we could potentially do on more groundwater recharge, as well as the future of direct potable reuse, which we do expect by the end of next year to have some regulations coming in place from the state of California. So there's some very heavy conversations going on right now that are exciting, and we're looking forward to that.
That's a little jargony. When we say
Okay.
direct potable reuse, that means drinking the water.
Yes, yes,
Toilet to tap.
yes. In a different way, maybe showers to flowers or flange to flange, yes.
Call it what you will. Direct potable reuse, though,
Correct.
it's a
Yeah.
bit of a euphemism. I think the people watching deserve
Right.
to know.
Right.
But you teased part of what the neighbors in LA County Sanitation,
Mhm.
that recycle project, which is modeled off of theirs,
Mhm.
but that is totally conceived around direct to potable. It's $3.2 billion
Mhm.
program over
Yes.
10 years. I mean, it's a huge investment, but they to my understanding, would skip the recharge and go straight to pumping into groundwater to replenish, and then have the magic spring come fresh.
Yeah, we would call it indirect potable reuse, because you are putting it in the ground as a buffer. At some point, you'll look at how do you blend it into all the
Put it behind a
pipelines.
curtain and
Yes.
wave it.
But for what it's worth, and again, that's what we do at West Basin, doing it for over 25 years at that plant. And again, you know, you're putting drinkable water into the ground, it commingles, we pump it up later, it gets treated again, and then you're using it for drinking water. But all that being said, yes, you know, Councilman, I mean, this is the future, this is where we're going, it's fascinating, but I can also tell you there's a lot of wonderful partnerships and opportunities that, not just West Basin, but some of our neighboring agencies like Metropolitan, Los Angeles, LA San, and the Water Replenishment District. We're all in conversation as to how this is going to come together. So it's truly exciting, because that's going to secure our regional water supply around here.
One more before I let you off the hook, and that is that, you know, you guys went to battle for us, I mean, you at West Basin, around the Met's 20% price increase, but a big part of that was some of the costs that was seeking to address were not directly related to water. They're related around the institution of Metropolitan Water District. Are there anything that you see that we need to be concerned about price overages in the future? Because 20% over 2 years was going to be a significant, on top of the 90% we take from Hyperion, it was going to be a heavy hit to our residents.
That's a really good question, because they do a 2-year budget cycle, so don't get me wrong. You know, I personally, let alone our agency, will be watching what comes down the pike in proposals, as well as two of our directors do serve on the Met board. But I will tell you, I think that the Metropolitan Water District as a whole, when that happened, and some of our neighboring communities also rose up and pushed back, and it did make a change, and it ended up being a unanimous decision by their board to at least look at a much lower escalation of price for the 2-year cycle. So water affordability is a huge issue all of us are very engaged in, as well as myself personally. We've got to focus on that. Yes, we got to pay for infrastructure. Yes, we got to make sure that we're planning for the future. But on the other hand, we cannot ask our ratepayers to pay for, you know, needless, you know, frills and other things that we don't need. We have to make these long-term investments that make sense. So to answer your question, we're going to do the best we can, and I'm going to say personally, as your director, I mean, I am very engaged with all my communities. I appreciate that, you know, if I call and ask and engage with you all, you know, people do get back to me, because I think it's really important that most of the public, they don't understand how water districts work. They don't know what we do, and decisions can get made that they, you know, they're then at the back end, they're questioning. You know, we do get some pushback at different meetings, but it's not to the level of what you all experience on a council, of course. But if those of us who are in these roles are doing our job, I think we, one, keep you informed, and two, we call on the residents to hold us accountable and hold those other leaders accountable. So I'm going to do everything I can as we go into the next cycle. And there's going to be a lot of changes coming up in the next couple of years. I mean, look at all the elections going on in this whole region, this cycle right now. So there's going to be a lot of change, I predict, in the next couple of years at various levels of local government. And I think that's where we can all make a big impact.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I thought you could give all the residents that are watching and anyone here maybe a little history or how the rules work. What I felt like we experienced when Hyperion had its issue was lots of people were complaining about it, and the reality was all we really want is to be able to flush our toilet and not think about it.
Right.
So I know I, like many of you, want to turn on my faucet and have potable water come out of it.
Sure.
Right? But then I read stories of Lake Powell is at the lowest levels it's been, and Lake Mead is at the lowest levels it's been, to the point where they're finding bodies in Lake Mead. Lake Mead gets its water from Lake Powell. If Lake Powell doesn't have water, and if Lake Mead doesn't have water, is there a point in our future, hypothetically, that, you know, the municipal water district can no longer buy water from the Colorado River? I mean, because you made mention in your report that states in Colorado or cities in Colorado and Arizona have now been told, like, hey, you're not going to get as much water.
Right.
We got to lower this. Are we just the spoiled California children that are going to continue to get what we want and have green lawns?
No. There's going to be a breaking point where the 7 states, you know, at some point, the federal government can come in and impose on all of us that, hey, we will not allow you to take more water from the system. So that's why a lot of this has been kind of run through involuntary agreements, where we're trying to say, hey, let us work together on our end, federal government, and come together to make something rather than you all impose it upon us. But to get to your question, I think on the other side of it would be, like, for example, what's happening with the State Water Project coming down from the Delta is, you know, there just isn't enough water literally in the system to allow the normal deliveries that every agency would expect along the way. And so, if nothing else, you can put enough through for health and safety, but you can't ask for people to do more. And yes, everyone's got to do their part. So that's why you are hearing in other parts of our SoCal region where people, you know, you're getting heavily dinged if you are not participating. Because, you know, if you're not going to reduce consumption, that's not fair to everybody else. So we all don't want to get to that breaking point, obviously. That's why we're doing all this other work. So yes, cooperative agreements, working with the federal government, trying to really work together. Obviously, even in the Inflation Reduction Act, you know, there was policy put in place at the 11th hour, actually, from Senator Sinema in Arizona, to put another $4 billion or so into water in the West and look at the future out here, because it's not just us. It's Nevada, it's Arizona. So all that being said, you're looking at the supply issues coming in, but then turn around, what can we control locally? So that's why recycled water is huge. Better groundwater management utilization is tremendous. And so we have a huge storage bank right here below us that we can better utilize, and that's going to protect us. So one last thing, we may, you know, down the road, we can look at, you know, how many more yards can you have and different types of things. But at this moment, we're trying to do it more on the education front with our public and those incentives. And then, yes, I think we're going to have a lot of bigger conversations in the next, 10, 20 years for the United States to figure out how do we manage the supply with the growth, you know, in the West. Because we love living out here, but we got to make sure we can be sustainable. So, that being said, I hope I.
Yeah, no,
answered your question.
I appreciate all of that. I think to myself too that I found myself in a conversation with an older resident here in town when beginning of summer, and she was concerned about water restrictions. And she said, please do not do a blanket 30%.
Yeah.
She said, I live alone and I have turf. There is not 30% to take from me.
Yes.
There's no blood from this stone. Whereas, you know, I'm a family of 5 and I have natural grass, which means that I could cut 30% a lot easier than she could. So I'd say if the West Basin does discuss what kind of, mandates to put in place, please do not think of it as just a straight guillotine, 30% across the board. I think it should be just every person is allowed so much and people have to learn how to work within their means.
Right. Well, just on that, I will assure you, and by the way, I have multiple residents around the region who come up to me. I mean, you could be in Malibu, and folks will come up to me and say, Scott, I have done my part. I have saved. It's just me and my wife. It's just, I'm single. I'm by myself. So the concern is there. And when we look at this, it's an average of use for our water district. And so we're hitting our metrics, and yet at the same time, I'll tell you all, we go to bat to make sure that that is not something that would come down the pike without at least us having a big voice to push back, because no, it's not fair. You have many residents who have done the right thing and they can't curve or squeeze any more out. But obviously there's many others that we can work with to do that. So again, another big part of what we're doing is trying to balance that out. But yes, we do not want to come in my opinion, and hit the hammer on everybody, because that wouldn't be fair. Wouldn't be fair at all. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, thank you both. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Director.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, have a great night.
Take care.
All right, next up, we have public communications. Now is the time and place. 5-minute limit per person. Do we have a sense of how many people would like to speak, Madam Clerk?
2.
2 people, okay.
Mayor, if I might.
Yes, please.
As I've been stating in the last few meetings, city council meetings are limited to city business. Campaigning is not considered city business under California law. It's not appropriate to come to the podium and either say to introduce yourself as a candidate, to make statements such as vote for a certain candidate, don't vote for a certain candidate, or the same with ballot measures, or to discuss the merits of ballot measures. So please refrain from politicking in tonight's meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
First up, Dave Hollop.
Good evening. My name is David Hollop. I made a public comment at the June 7th City Council meeting about the incident that occurred on the 800 block of Center Street on May 27th, which you are all familiar with. I and others in the city were concerned about what happened during that incident and sought transparency and accountability from U.S.PD around it. It turned out that Chief Bermudez was on hand that day and already planned on providing an update at that meeting. In his remarks, Chief Bermudez said he had ordered a thorough review of the incident, including ESPD's response, the use of mutual aid from surrounding departments, ESPD's incident command structure, the field operations and tactics that were used, and ESPD's coordination with our schools. Chief Bermudez called the incident a black eye to the department and wanted to correct it. So I was excited to see Chief Bermudez provide an update at the last City Council meeting on September 20th. However, the only update that he provided was that ESPD had caught who they believed to be the suspect from the incident. Zero information about the review of the response was given. And the only response from you, the council, was Mayor Pro Tem praising the chief for catching a suspect. So I'm here tonight to ask, is that it? Are we going to get any more information about what happened that day and what ESPD found in its review of the response? The active investigation excuse is no longer valid, so I'm hoping that we can. Do you, as our elected city representatives, not believe we, the residents of the city, are entitled to more information about what happened and some transparency and accountability here? Are we just supposed to assume that ESPD has reviewed the matter internally and fixed the issues that led to what happened that day? I don't think you would treat any other city department with this little oversight. So we appreciate it if ESPD and City Council gave us, the residents, the courtesy and respect of at least providing some further information on this incident and what was found on the internal review. Or you can continue to do nothing and allow trust and faith in our government to continue to drop and allow public doubts about whether there will ever be any real accountability for law enforcement to continue to grow. I think that we can all agree that's not a good outcome here. Thank you for your time, and I hope that some meaningful further information will be shared with the public on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollop.
Next up, John Pickhaver.
Good evening, Mayor Boyles and Council. Tonight I wanted to speak about the proclamations earlier today, and thank you for issuing them. First, on the breast cancer proclamation, and I wanted to echo Mayor Boyles' words about the companies in town fighting for a cure. This is separate from breast cancer, but 23 years ago today, my dad passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it's heartwarming to be in a city that does these proclamations and that has companies working towards a cure. On the second proclamation, for National Bullying Prevention Month, I just wanted to say, it calls for encouraging schools, students, parents, and community organizations to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities to make our communities safer for kids in town. That's a great message, but I'm also here tonight to encourage the city itself to engage in these activities and be an active leader throughout and beyond National Bullying Prevention Month. As you know, this subject has been top of mind for residents after the recent $1 million judgment against the district over bullying in our schools. But bullying only exists in our schools because it exists in our community. And that's why we as a city need to step up our efforts. Christy Bell said it very well earlier today, and I'm just gonna echo some of her words. I closely follow the work of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee, and I know they are taking this matter seriously. At their last meeting, on their agenda, they discussed the possibility of an anti-bullying community forum. I think this would be a great idea. It's something I support and hope you will too, because the more we as a city shy away from uncomfortable and difficult conversations, the worse the situation becomes. The city's #1 strategic goal, as you know, or one of them, is to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Here's a real opportunity to do just that. A lot of good will come from it. Will it solve the issue entirely? Probably not. But it's an excellent start in tackling this problem and will help ensure everyone feels safer and more welcoming in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pickhaver. Any other public comments? Okay, Mr. George, would you like to touch on any comments, particularly the first one, maybe?
Yes, with regards to the first speaker and the availability of the report that was done regarding the Center Street incident from several months ago, I did fully review the report, appreciated the chief's efforts toward identifying what shortcomings were identified. There were a number of items in the report for recommendations to improve efforts. I can only say that I'll speak with him about potentially making the report available and get back to the council with that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. If I can also, I know it's actually identified on the agenda under my comments is item number 5, but as you recall, roughly now, I think a month ago, the council, in regards to all of the incidents that have been taking place out at Hyperion, declared a state of public emergency, as well as gave direction to the city attorney to file a lawsuit against Hyperion and the city of Los Angeles. Part of that recommendation was you asked the manager's office to report out at every council meeting on efforts that are being made to address what's been happening. And this evening, I'm pleased to say that a number of items have been coming to fruition since then. In fact, this past 2 weeks, I have 4 or 5 items to report on this evening. Number 1, per the recent order of abatement that came from the Aqmd, Hyperion was required to take 2 24-hour VOC samples within the city. These two samples were taken on September 27th and also on the next day, September 28th. The results will be available in the next couple weeks. So they're beginning to implement the recommendations made in the abatement order, the second abatement order. This past Friday, the mayor, the public works director, and myself were actually invited by Hyperion, and specifically Barbara Romero, who's the director of LA Sanitation, Hyperion, of the Hyperion staff, asked us to come on a tour of the site to begin to visually point out the number of measures they're taking to deal with the odor control. They gave us a very thorough presentation by their chief engineer. They proceeded to show us over, I think, about like $103 million worth of improvements that are being made, that are in the works right now, and that are being bid out over the next 24 months. Provided really a lot of information regarding, as I said, those ongoing efforts that they're making. We spent probably 3 hours out there with Barbara, her staff, as well as one of the chief deputies from Mayor Garcetti's office in Los Angeles. So even to that level, it's been elevated. So certainly, it's nice to now have some open lines of communication with them. Unfortunately, there were 2 more notices of violation, which were issued over the weekend. That they did receive. Also, early last week, I was fortunate to have a meeting with the incoming chair of Aqmd itself, the overseer agency. She'll be coming in as the new chair. I discussed our entire situation with her, and really it was great to have that one-on-one conversation about what we're dealing with right now in the city with Hyperion. And then finally, just today, staff from our fire department and our new communications manager attended a joint task force meeting at the site, Hyperion, to discuss the protocols for incident response. One of the issues, as you know, is really getting a heads up on anything that's taken place that may generate additional odors or situations where the residents may call in to inquire about what's going on. So these meetings now will be taking place on a regular basis. They were attended by management officials from LA County Public Health, the City of LA Emergency Management and Fire, LA County Beaches and Harbors, and LA Sanitation, also including, again, Barbara Romero. The task force will continue to hold regular monthly meetings. So a number of items are beginning to take place now in relationship to what's going on in Hyperion.
Thank you, Mr. George. And we also got a tour of the plant and some of the improvements that they had put in place, including where they had previously chemical scrubbers. I can't remember which part of the plant. It's one of the early primary phases or parts of the plant. Just after the headworks, yeah. They took those chemical scrubbers and converted them to biotricklers, so that's good, and they have plans to do more of those biotricklers in the future. There was that area where they were waiting on custom fabricated covers for the tanks.
Yes, all new covers for the tanks, yes.
Yeah, and that was gonna be further out because they were having supply chain issues.
Correct.
We saw the 2 new fence line monitoring stations and where the third one is going in the center. So it was a comprehensive tour. Do you think that they heard us when we made the comments? And I know Mr. Sassoon was adamant about this several times, about, to your point about, we need to know when these things are happening. When people are complaining about smell in the middle of the night, what is triggering that? What's the event? What can you do operationally to prevent that from happening? And number 2, what can we do to give notice to our residents in advance? Do you feel like that's going to be improving?
Yes, I do. I'm hoping that what came out of that meeting, as well as today's task force meeting on protocols, they will be identifying ways that they can inform us sooner of issues like that.
The other idea we mentioned was bringing members of the public into their facility and showing them what they've done and what's yet to be done. So we'll see if they take us up on that. The Aqmd order of abatement also had an outside consultancy that was going to be brought on board. Can you talk a little bit about that,
Yes.
where we're at with that?
Yeah, the discussion in that regard was they are in the process now of creating a request for proposals to bring on an outside third party to come in and to satisfy that recommendation as part of the order. So it is in the works. I mean, there's a number of things they are doing at this point that we hope, and we'll certainly keep an eye on that as we move forward with them.
Okay, another question. This is more of a question for Mr. Hensley. Any progress with Senator Allen's office? I know he indicated that he was open to authoring some legislation on fence line monitoring. There's something similar.
There's been some communications, but we expect to get something to them in the next week as far as their next legislative process starts in a couple months. So we'll certainly get something before that, or hopefully in the next week or two to him, so that he can get that into the works as far as giving, the point of that is to give Aqmd the ability to require air monitoring just like they can require at the refineries.
Yeah.
And part of that is there are a lot of different size plants in the state as far as wastewater treatment plants, and so is looking at all those issues and which ones do they all really need to be monitored, because that could be much more time consuming and maybe slow it down as opposed to the very large type facilities that are more likely to cause larger impacts on communities. So we're looking at those issues.
And then we were also asking about monitoring besides what they're required to monitor for any and all. It didn't seem like they were as receptive to that. Do you want to touch on that, Mr. George?
Yes, they are, the two tests they recently did were for VOC, volatile organic compound samples. But it's my understanding that the samples do not include any testing on the presence of H2S or NOx fumes. So they have been hesitant about including those other two testings for those chemicals. And we are pressing them on that.
And our understanding is, or from talking to Public Works Director Elias Sassoon, is that the monitors they have, or at least the hardware, has the ability to plug in these different monitoring devices. They've just chosen not to do so at this time.
And from what I understand also, it's not very costly to add those two monitors that the city attorney is referring to. So we will continue to press them on that.
All right, thank you for that.
I just have one question.
Yeah, please.
So you mentioned, we were talking about communication, about the expanded communication and being a little more upfront and proactive. When the situation happened, the Hyperion was waiting on the county health department to do the communication outreach. And so has the process changed now where they're going to assume responsibility of their own communication, or are they going to continue to have that partnership with the county health department? Because I just want to make sure that which process is being changed and how else going to work going forward.
I will have to get back to you on that, Councilwoman. I'm not 100% sure if that responsibility has shifted. I will talk with our communications manager tomorrow. Maybe that came out in today's task force meeting, because really the first time this group has met in quite a while. So I will get the answer to that to you.
Because if I recall, that was the major issue, is that they called in the county health, and then the county health delayed the communication response, or the communication health response was late. So I just want to, if we're expecting, you know, real-time communication, then that connection agree upon that speed, or is the Hyperion going to assume that
Well, I
responsibility?
see our deputy city manager may have an answer to that question.
Yes, I'm leaning in here. So Diane Chabon is our new communications manager, and she attended a task force meeting today, as city manager mentioned. But the protocols are all being looked at for all of the different organizations that attended the task force, including the Hyperion internal team, the county health, the city of LA, the department, the sanitation department, and they're all going to have an agreed upon protocol that will include all the people that need to be notified. And so with Diane there, notifying the city is going to be a priority. And it's going to happen as quickly as possible. That's the goal. And also, I think within Hyperion, the protocols in place are per the permit, per legal requirements, this is what we have to do by law in terms of notifications. We're asking them to extend beyond that, and in particular, include their very close next door neighbors first.
And so maybe that's something we can talk to Senator Van Allen as well about, not just the fence line management, about the communication protocols. If they're only doing just what they have or by law required to do, that may not be satisfying what the expectation of the residents are.
No, and that's the conversation that's happening, yeah.
All right, Daryl, and then another question. I had someone come to my mayor's open hours right before this, and she's frustrated. She's a neighbor of mine, and she just said, what, besides calling Aqmd, is there anything else that we can do as residents? So anything that you could suggest? I couldn't actually come up with any.
I also, by the way, had a Zoom meeting with a number of residents last week, and they did ask that question, and my suggestion was to go to the LA City Council meetings. You know, as we all know, Hyperion sits in Council District 11 in the city of Los Angeles, and that council member is not running again for office, but attending an LA City Council meeting under public participation to share the concerns, and like they were at our meeting several meetings ago, I think would be very helpful.
That's all I had, colleagues. Thank you. So we can expect another report next council meeting?
Yes, every meeting, Council,
Thank you.
Mayor.
All right, we are on to item A, procedural motions. Read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda and by title only. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent. Any polls this evening? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
For 6 seconds?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay. We're on to staff presentations. We have an exciting one. And Mr. George, we've got item 8, which is it's a grant award from Chevron U.S.A. in the amount of $75,000. You want to?
Yes, I will turn this staff report over to, again, our Deputy City Manager, Barbara Voss.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I get a fun job this evening in introducing Frederick Walker, who's General Manager of the Chevron plant, as well as Lily Craig, who's our Government Affairs Manager. They'll come up shortly. Just wanted to acknowledge that over the last 7 years that I've been here and prior to that, Chevron has supported economic development to the tune of $1.3 million. And really that's made our program as strong as it can be. We continue to invest in business attraction, business retention, hospitality and tourism, bringing in those key industries that will diversify our economy and continue to create very high quality jobs for residents in the surrounding areas. So the impact is not only the city of El Segundo, but also the region. And a lot of that is thanks to the decisions of City Council as well to provide funding for that, but also to Chevron. And with that, I'd like to bring up Mr. Walker and Lily. And Ms. Craig? All right. And then also, Christina Revelis is here as well, and she's our Economic Development Coordinator, so she's also quite instrumental in implementing the Economic Development Program. All right, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. All right, good evening. So first, I want to thank you, Mayor and council members, for inviting us and allowing us a little time to make this presentation tonight. As I mentioned, or was mentioned earlier, so my name is Frederick Walker, and I am the General Manager of the Chevron Refinery. And Lily here, a longtime resident of El Segundo, I think is a familiar face to all of you. Now, I also happen to be an El Segundo resident. And in fact, 2 of my children actually attended our outstanding schools here during my first El Segundo assignment. And now I currently have my nephew who is living with me here as a junior and running cross country at the high school. Now, my wife, Selena, and I were absolutely delighted to return to El Segundo for the second assignment. Selena was very much excited about coming to El Segundo, which was a place that had a small town feel like the small towns we grew up in Mississippi, with access to some of the local amenities that come with living in the LA County area. I was also glad to have that as a returning point, But I was equally excited about coming to a location that had a business-friendly environment. And so I would like to congratulate you all in being recognized once again as a finalist, being recognized as one of the most business-friendly cities here in the area, so congratulations to you all. We at Chevron would like to think that we had a little bit of a hand in helping you earn that business-friendly reputation, as during our 111 years here in the city, Chevron has taken great pride in helping develop and sustain the economic vitality of this region. And we commend the City Council and staff for your tremendous work in fostering continued growth. Now, in recognition of the city's continuing mission to define El Segundo as a city where big ideas take off, and on behalf of the Chevron El Segundo family here and all the employees, I'm honored to present you with a new grant of $75,000 to help support the city's continuing success. Now, this grant brings Chevron support for economic development to over $1.3 million over these past 10 years, something that we are very proud of, and we thank you for this opportunity to make this presentation this evening.
Thank you very much. You want to say a few words, Lily, or?
Oh,
yeah.
okay. What can I say? We're just so excited to be here, right? And I have to say, working with Barbara in economic development was like one of the most fun things I got to do. I was so proud of what we were able to do together, and it's just very exciting. The other thing I wanted to say, Mayor, you brought this up, and you can ask Barbara, after the mayor's State of the City, I asked her who the heck put those videos together, because they were extraordinary, and I wanted to hire that company, and then she tells me, it's you guys. So congratulations, that was very, very well done. And
Thank you. And I'll just say that in the 8 years I've been involved, first as chair of economic development and then on council, Chevron has been instrumental. I remember when the checks were bigger. No, I'm just kidding. But I will say that
was good.
No, in all seriousness, you did help us redefine who we are. The where big ideas take off, that came out of the process of looking at our brand positioning and redefining who we want to be as we go to market as a city. And so I have fond memories, and we're so thankful that you guys are continuing to help us with economic development. It means a lot, and hopefully we take home that first prize again for most business-friendly city. And I'm sorry I wasn't at Toberfest, because I would have loved to do the Stein contest with you. That's next year, indeed. I know, he told me. Anyway, thank you very much. We'll come up for a picture, please. Thank you.
Should we vote on it first? Nichols,
Great
so moved
point. Thank
on
you.
items 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Persick, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. 5-0. Thank you.
You've been holding that check since the 6th? What's going on? Were we supposed to be on earlier agenda?
Who's taking the picture? Robert.
I'll take it with me. Our photographer's gone, but just clean up all the makeup on my lenses. I have to get this approved by Robert.
Yeah.
I don't have to get that mic. Just the one on the right. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna take a couple. Perfect. That's so cool.
All right, great job, Barbara Voss and your department, Christina, and everybody else. Thank you very much. Again, we're very thankful. Okay, we are on to item 9, Residential Sound Installation RSI Program Update. And Mr. George?
Yes, and we do have representatives from Los Angeles World Airports here this evening also, and I will turn this over to our Community Development Director, Michael Allen, to introduce the program and the representatives from LAWA.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. If you recall, possibly back in the 90s, the city and LAWA, or Los Angeles World Airports, initiated the RSI program, Residential Sound Installation Program, and in El Segundo specifically, We accomplished approximately 1,900 homes since the 90s in improving them with the RSI program, addressing the noise impacts in El Segundo as a result of our closest neighbor, or one of our closest neighbors, the LAX airport. That program in itself was paused in El Segundo in 2018, but I'm happy to announce and introduce Samantha Bricker from LAWA, who will walk us through a reignition of the RSI program that LAWA will be facilitating, and the city is partnering. I'll be facilitating issuance of building permits and the regulatory side of it from a permitting standpoint. But I'm hopeful and glad and looking forward to seeing this ground or project get kicked off and pick up off the ground again. And so with that, I'm happy to announce and introduce Samantha Bricker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Michael, thank you. You've been a fantastic partner. And I also want to introduce Randy Waldeck, who is our project manager, standing up this really important program. So we're very pleased to be here today. I know it's been a long time coming to restart up the program, but we have really started in earnest. We have launched the program with support from the FAA. So it's a partnership, $143 million program that's been budgeted for sound installation, both in the city of Los Angeles and in El Segundo. City of Los Angeles, it's for folks who have not been sound insulated in the previous program. El Segundo, it's to finish up the folks who are left. So you can see here we have about 1,150 homes that are eligible in the city of El Segundo. And so we're going to be working very hard to get those done as quickly as possible. This is anticipated as a 7-year program, but we're obviously hoping that we can do it more quickly. We have a fantastic team. We went out this year to stand up a new project management, construction management team. This group has done sound insulation all over the country, but also in Los Angeles. So they know how to get permits. They know how to work with the utility companies and get things done. So that was really important for us to really launch this program. The program boundary is the FAA Part 150 NEM map for 2020, and I'll show you what that looks like, I hope. So these are the noise contours, and the folks who are within these contours are eligible for this program. And we have a two-step process that looks at eligibility. The first step is they have to be within the noise contour map. They have to be zoned residential, and the house has to be built before October 1, 1998. Those are federal requirements, and we follow the federal program since they are a partner with us. Step 2 is to make sure that the average interior noise level is 45 decibels or greater. And what we normally do is we test about 30% of the homes to make sure that they qualify. Testing includes speakers, which generate noise outside the home, which simulate aircraft noise, and we have sound meters inside the home that measure the noise. And so we do that to make sure that they're eligible. Again, the FAA requires this to make sure that they fund the program. So we are starting a pilot program in El Segundo. We want to get started on that as quickly as possible. So we have looked at putting together a pilot program of about 60 homes. We feel that's a really good way to start. We can get that going very quickly. As you can see here, the first phase of testing would begin in November. Actually October, and then design in November. So we're trying to jumpstart this very fast to get this done. We also will be doing 100% of acoustical testing to make sure everyone is eligible. We will make sure all the permitting goes smoothly. We're working very closely with Michael on that to make sure we have an expedited process that is smooth and fast. And we also want to make sure procurement goes smoothly. And that's a really big issue because there's not a lot of people who do this type of program. We want to make sure we get the best contractors. So while we're doing this testing, we're also going to be going forward with a procurement process so we can get a bench of eligible contractors on board that we can give these designs to. They can bid on them quickly, and we can start the process so that we aren't starting a procurement process every time we want to do a new home. So we think that will really help to expedite the process and get things going quickly, and of course to finish quickly, which is our goal. Following the pilot, participation in the program will be prioritized. Homes in the 70 dB contour will receive priority. That's the highest level. We want to make sure that the homes who are most impacted by noise get done quickly. And then you can see here for homes with equal noise impact, earliest applications will get priority. So we really want people to apply for this program. As I said, the program has launched, so we want people to put in their applications as quickly as possible so that we can make sure that we can get the process going. This gives you a little idea of the schedule. So again, we're trying to expedite this and do it as quickly as possible. Application process is about 3 weeks. We then go into acoustical testing and design. And so design is obviously custom for every home. And we look at windows and doors and air conditioning and ventilation. All of those are part of the process. We work very closely with the homeowner on all of this. That's about a 4-month process. We then go into procurement and construction. So again, we put the designs out to our qualified group of contractors. They bid on it. They start ordering the supplies. They go through the construction process, the permitting process, and then we have closeout of about a month. So again, anything we can do to make the process go more smoothly, but traditionally this has been the time frame. The program is no cost to the homeowner, and so I think we get a lot of people who say it's too good to be true. What's the catch? There's no catch. The windows and doors are free to the homeowner. Again, LAWA and FA are partnering to fund this program. But we did hear loud and clear from homeowners that they want the opportunity to have betterments. They want to be able to make sure that it matches the rest of their home. They want to make sure that they, in some cases, have a certain aesthetic, and so we have agreed to that and allowed that differential. And it's something that we had to get FA approval for to do that. But we did go to FA and we told them this was really important to the community. We wanted to make sure it was offered as an option. So we think the FA will agree to that. We're waiting for the final word from them, but in all of our briefings with them, they have seemed amenable to that. Our project manager has done that on other projects throughout the country, and so brings that experience to bear, moving that forward. And we think that'll be a great amenity for the residents, both in the city of LA and El Segundo. And again, we're trying to open a showroom where we'll have the products so people can come and visit and talk to a homeowner liaison who can answer their questions. They can see the products for themselves, they can touch the products, and they can ask questions. So we think that's very important. We're actually looking in a few places, including El Segundo, to open that showroom. So that's something that we're really trying to get going as quickly as possible. And one of the big things we're doing is community outreach. And we want to make sure we do very targeted outreach because you have to have a lot of criteria to be eligible for this project. So we don't want to just blanket the airwaves with this, and we don't want to disappoint people or raise expectations if they're not eligible. So we're doing things like targeted direct mail. We know all of the people who have not yet been sound insulated, so we're sending them postcards, which we did last week. We're sending them letters. We're doing, social media targeting certain neighborhoods. We're going to go out to things like farmers markets and things in people's communities. If neighborhood councils or homeowner associations want to invite us to speak to their members at their meetings, we're happy to do that. So we're really getting that going. We have a very nice outreach team that really wants to get out there and answer questions and showcase this program. So if anyone is interested in having a homeowner briefing, we're happy to do that and come out to brief people on this project. And then we also set up a website dedicated to the program. where you can check your eligibility, you can file an application. We have FAQs that have typical questions, what's covered, how long does it take, what type of contractors do you use. We tried to come up with every conceivable question that people might ask. But again, full information. We also have a hotline, so people can call that if they have questions as well. But again, the website launched last week, and we're sending that out to folks so that they can have very easy access to this information. And again, you know, this is an example. We have an online eligibility tool where you put in your address and immediately you find out if you're in an eligible area or not. So it's, you know, very interactive. But again, if people have questions, if they want to know more about eligibility, we do have this hotline that's available. Messages will be responded to within 24 hours. We have a dedicated homeowner liaison who will be at our showroom, but will also be going out to the community to field requests, walk people through the process. This is a very personal process. It's not like doing a big infrastructure project. You're going into someone's home, and we know that you have to be hands-on. You have to be available. People have questions. They want to know about the design process. They want to know about the materials, and we have anticipated that. So we have someone who is really dedicated. That's all they're going to be doing is going to people's homes, meeting with people. And again, we'll be monitoring email questions and the website regularly. So again, this just launched last week. We're very excited about it. We think this will be a fantastic program for residents in El Segundo, and really look forward to working with you as we roll out the program. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just, go ahead, you go first.
Thank you for your presentation. It was great, very informative. One of the things, actually, the question I have is actually for our team. There is obviously a lot of community outreach planned for you. Is there a way we can supplement that just to make sure that, coming from our internal sources, that it's getting out there?
Yeah, Samantha and I have both spoken about us augmenting and amplifying the message, but with a focused effort on targeted outreach, since we don't want to disappointed residents thinking they may apply and then
I get that. I just think one of the things is that people are going to want to check into it anyway, and I think just by having that website where you could just go on and determine eligibility right away, that to me is a kind of a perfect social media post, and be able to get it out there so people can, and then they're going to wonder why they're ineligible, but there are regulations behind all this that we have to follow, and that's just part of the process. But overall, I think that might help out a lot just to get that message.
Yeah, we'll be coordinating with the comms team to
all right.
So.
Thank you.
So I have two questions. One is about the block rounding. So if you are going to accommodate a block rounding, so those homes would not be eligible today, but given that, because one of the comments was if multiple homes on the block had already been done and then the map changed, you wanted to round that block to ensure that everybody in that block got completed. So how do those homes notify you that they're interested if they're all of a sudden, they enter their address and it comes out ineligible?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we are interested in pursuing block rounding, and that, again, that's something that we've discussed with the FAA. So again, they can call the number.
So you should recommend those people, if they get denied, but they know that they're within,
call.
They should call. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And then my second question is, one of the things, what contractors are using to do the installation, because I know historically there was some leakage of some of the windows because they were done, they were input improperly, the slope was wrong, and when people tried to call the contractors had gone out of business. So what is the protocol going forward to ensure that that piece doesn't happen again?
That's a great question, and we do have a warranty, and we will be around for the next 7 years as well, but I'm going to let Randy address that because he's been working really hard to make sure we have a qualified and eligible bench of the best contractors. So
yeah, hi. So the contractors, with any contractor, there's a risk of them going away. The contractors we are pursuing actively to get them on the bench are they have to have been in business a certain amount of time. They have to have done this work before. A lot of them are doing the work for Inglewood, LA County already. San Diego Airport. There's some national ones that have been in business for a long time. So we're really trying to pursue the people. Frankly, I've been doing this for, I can't believe it's now 21 years. And it's a lot of the same players. And so we really are trying to convince them, we can't make them because it's public and all this, to get on this bench. The local firms have been in business a while, as long as I've been doing Inglewood, which is 8-9 years now. So like anything, there's a warranty. The windows are warranted for 10 years no matter what. I actually know the situation because my firm actually started our office in LA working on the LAWA program in 1999. We're actually in El Segundo now, by the way, just down the street. So I know exactly which building you're talking about because that was a mess. And part of the project too is very good quality control. And we actually, which is rare, not only do we have city inspectors come and look at the work, we have in-house inspectors that have the same certifications that the cities require of the city inspectors to check all the work, because that's a lot of these things is you don't discover these things until later. That's the reality of construction. So quality control is critical, and that's why we've brought some of our best people, frankly, on it, because as a designer, I'm also on the hook for this, you know. And so, like I said, we're trying to get the best of the best out there. It is a challenging environment. The good news is the other programs have tapered down, so these contractors are a little hungry. Hope that helps.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Mrs. Bricker, thank you for being here. I know you manage a lot at LAX. This is just one thing, and every time I'm there, I'm amazed at what's happening at that airport. Did you guys finish the bridge with the people mover at the final?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
At least the really bad traffic part of it.
Yeah, okay, good. Anyway, it's just good to see that you all are taking this on. We did it, for those that don't know, we used to do this in-house, and frankly, we didn't do a great job because it's outside our core competency. It's just not something we're doing. So we really worked with you and your team. I remember Carol and I being at the table back, I don't know, a long time ago, to have those conversations with staff and Suzanne Fuentes prior. And we're just thankful that you're all taking it on. And we look forward to seeing a lot of this change. I just had a question. I think you answered everything I wrote down. The contour, has it changed significantly since I said 2020 update? Has it changed much, or?
It hasn't changed much, and we haven't done a new contour map for the simple reason that because of COVID, flights were less, and that would actually make the contour map smaller. So we didn't want to do a contour map because we thought it would be really an artificial map. So it's something that we will look to do as operations go back up. But we felt that now we wanted to take this map because this was done more towards kind of the peak before COVID.
That's great. So I'm thinking of buildings, because this applies obviously to multi-unit residential as well, right? So I'm thinking of, there's a big building on Imperial that has got to be right smack dab in the contour. There likely are units in there where they were not converted with RSI, I'm thinking in the past. So yeah, I think the HOA idea, there aren't that many big buildings in the contour, but there's one in particular I'm thinking of on Imperial that would probably benefit from an HOA meeting if most of those haven't been converted. So I'll let staff know to let you know.
Absolutely,
Okay.
and we're happy to meet with them.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right.
I got a couple. I think it's, hi Samantha, how are you?
Good to see you.
Long time no see. I think it's important to mention, and I'm not saying I agree with this, I just, like, LAX, let's play a little game here. We're gonna see into the future. Is LAX gonna be there in 30 years? Yes, it is.
So.
Is plain noise going to still exist in 30 years? Let's just say yes. All right, so speaking from personal experience, the homes when they were originally soundproofed, like the early adapters within the 75 dB range, like there's homes on West Acacia that when RSI was done, well, one, the windows are not what they are today. Two, rooms were actually like, additional drywall was added to the inside of the northern walls of some of these homes. I discovered it in a house I owned when I was trying to cut into the wall to move like an electrical outlet. It was like, why do I have 3 pieces of drywall on this wall? And it was, I found in the RSI book that I had that, you know, quiet creep was, like quiet drywall was added. There was another home on East Acacia, when they were selling it, I was like, gosh, why, like, this room is oddly shaped, and the windowsill is really thick. And lo and behold, the homeowner had owned it for a long, long time, and they told the story, oh, when the airport came in, you know, they furred the wall in 4 inches and added more drywall to create a sound buffer in the wall. And so obviously things have improved. But per FAA code, and correct me if I'm wrong, once a home is abated for the sound, it's done. It's off the list forever, correct?
Correct.
So despite the fact that the windows are better, that the standard is higher now than it once was, if your home was done originally in the 90s, like, you are not eligible for any updates, any repairs, anything. And then, you're just playing along with me because I know these answers, so I haven't asked a question yet. But Michael, I do have a question for you, and I'm trying to understand this. If I own a home inside the contour, and it was abated for sound 30 years ago, and I need to change those windows, because those windows are now at a stage where, like, they're old. I need to change these windows. Am I required by the city to replace them with windows with an STC rating of a certain magnitude to meet the soundproofing criteria?
Yeah, we do have a municipal code section specific to RSI improvements.
So, and so this is where I have trouble with, like, the RSI program, or when it comes down to, you know, because once all these homes are done, then it's like, oh, we're done. Sound is abated. Congratulations, you know, moving on with our life. But these homes and these people are going to continue to live there. I mean, one would make the argument that those homes are going to be there for another 100 years, right? And those windows are not going to last for 100 years. So I find it odd that the FAA does not find it incumbent upon the airport to continue to service the abatement process of that sound, because the sound does not change, but yet that burden then becomes on that homeowner. And it may not be the same homeowner, but over time things fail. So if my sound abatement is failing because the windows are no longer doing their job, one could argue that LAWA should come back and abate that sound again. Could they not? I don't know. I've always found it odd that we encumber the resident on that. It's like, well, LAWA came in and did their job, so if a resident wants to change their windows with normal windows, why should they be required to spend upwards of $20,000 or $30,000 more for soundproof windows when it's their home, it's their life, and they didn't decide to tell LAWA to abate the sound?
But they did decide to move there and purchase the home.
But is there something that, like, we, as a city, we can decide to say, hey, like, we don't require that. It's not required. You know,
I'd have to take a closer look at our RSI chapter specifically and what triggers the requirement. If you're voluntarily improving the home, I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what that trigger is, so I'd have to look closer.
And I think we looked at this question about 6 or 9 months ago, maybe it was longer, and I thought that some of the uniform building codes address this as far as statewide homes located within a certain distance of an airport, that's where that regulation came from. But we can look at that and make sure that that's the case. Because if it's a uniform code, the city's allowed to impose stricter regulations, but generally not less strict regulations. So, but we can get back to you on that.
Got it.
Which is a different question, though, than if LAWA would be able to pay for it once again. I mean,
yeah, and I think it's important, too, and I'm not sure if your software is going to work for this, but, Michael, let's say a home was remodeled in, 2012, right? Well, they're going to type in their address on LAWA's website, and is that going to correlate the fact that, well, no, you remodeled, and technically you're supposed to have soundproof windows in based upon that remodel permit?
No, they'll be subject to the sound test and other qualifications.
Right now, as a guy who had to stand up this database, all the dates are based upon what the county has in their records, the latest assessor records as of a month ago.
As of year built?
Yeah, year built, unless
yeah,
it's
but if you leave a
significant enough.
foundation...
Yeah, if it's considered a remodel, they don't reset the date, I don't believe. That's the whole trick to keep your property taxes low, right? So I think there are homes, as I was looking through the database, that are built after 1998 that are in the contour that clearly they scraped it or something and started over, but yeah, for a quote-unquote remodel. However, when we get out there, we'll see it. And I've worked, our firm does acoustical engineering, and we've done lots of big remodels in El Segundo where we have to do all the paperwork you guys require. So the windows that are required in these contours, like for these houses that have been remodeled, we'll see it, and they frankly probably won't qualify because they have the same windows we'd put in.
Correct. So I think that's where I was kind of working towards, because, you know, sitting up here on the dais, people come to the mic and they're going to complain about, you know, well, my house is on this street and my neighbor got the windows. Why don't I have the windows? Or LAWA came in and they're not going to put a window in my basement room because they say that that's not living space, right? So these were all the comments that previous councils got. So I just think it's important that, to Lance's point about getting information out, if there are asterisks towards qualifying and carve-outs as to what might make you not qualify for this, I think it's really important that your communication team gets out ahead of it and shares that information with our communication team so that we can make sure that the residents know what they do and do not qualify for. Because at the end of the day, this is not our program. These are not our rules. This is the FAA, right? It's a federal agency telling LAWA that they are required to abate this sound. And so we have really no power in this, but we will bear the burden of anything that goes wrong with it, unfortunately. So communication is key.
I just have one other question. Sure. This is only just for windows, correct? We're not doing air conditioning and heating as historically some had been done.
No, we are.
You are
So
doing-
it's windows and doors and ventilation and air conditioning. So all
That
of
was
that's
one of the
included.
exceptions that you're working on, right, with FAA, or is that already been resolved?
We resolved that,
Awesome. 'Cause
so
I know that
we're-
was something that was.
that was an issue
Yeah,
before,
for sure.
so.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have action, really on this, it's just, do we have consensus to receive and file? I think so. All right, moving on. Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it. All right, item 10, ordinance adding chapter 1333 to the El Segundo Municipal Code to enable reasonable city cost recovery for excessive false fire alarm responses. Mr. George. who will
Yes,
present?
Mr. Mayor, our Fire Chief, Dina Lee, will provide the presentation on this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Member City Council. So the false alarm fee was implemented with the master fee schedule. The false alarm fee is to encourage businesses to maintain their fire protection systems. It also will reduce the liability to the city having less apparatus driving code 3 to false alarms, and it keeps the emergency units available for true emergencies. I ran a report for the 9 months out of this year, and I have last year as well. Out of 2,100 calls, 2,136 this year, false alarms, we have 254, which is 11.89% of our total calls, and is projected to exceed last year, which was 317 calls. So we're projected to have 338 false alarms. So the fees, first and two false alarms are free. There could be a mistake, an accident, but the third is $260, the fourth, $520, and the fifth, $780. And we'll work with the business owners to help them to make sure that their alarm systems are in working order.
Is that, that's within a year, or what, I can't remember what the time frame is there for those? or
Yeah,
is it-
annually. So we'll
Okay.
check in quarterly, and if they've had one or two, we'll remind them and see what help they need to get their systems in working order.
And Chief Lee, is this just for businesses that we're going to charge? Or how
Yeah,
about-
it's for commercial fire alarms, yeah,
So,
not
but-
residential
but
fire alarms.
residential, we're not going to. Okay.
Does this correlate to any additional requirement we've had for more monitoring systems? Is there anything that we think is driving the false alarms? Is there a particular defective technology that's been released, or?
No, that's a good question, though, because our new construction, there are more buildings with alarm systems, so that might be one of the reasons. And there are newer alarms, but I don't know any other correlation.
All right, I think there are no more questions or comments on this. So we have a ordinance to introduce.
Yes, Mayor and Council, an ordinance amending El Segundo Municipal Code Title 13 to add a new Chapter 22 to enable city cost recovery for excessive false fire alarms is ready for introduction.
Who would like to introduce?
Nickel, so introduced.
Okay.
And this will be brought back at your the council's October 18th council meeting for potential adoption.
I know it's been introduced, but can I ask another question? Actually, I mean, are we seeing is it repeatedly the same few businesses, Chief, or is it just in the aggregate we're seeing more volume throughout the city?
There are a few repeat offenders. I'm not going to call them out.
No,
but,
of course.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of, we're changing a rule, and if it's based on a total city volume as opposed to repeat offenders. On the
Right,
police
so,
side,
yeah,
on the police side, we have a few facilities that call for service all the time, which we're exploring. How do we keep them from offloading their security issues to the city budget? So if this was not addressing a few particular properties and was just on the aggregate, we have more alarm systems, so we have more false alarms, then it may not be a wise course of action. But if we're addressing specific high volume users, then it makes sense. So it's already been introduced, but that was just my question.
Yeah, it's widespread. Yeah, and we'll go and investigate. So if it's because you have something that's hot, that's too close to the, we can help you with, if it's something that needs to be fixed, or if it's just that you have an old alarm system that needs to be repaired, then we'll go the other route.
And then lastly, so what's the communication plan to let these businesses know, especially the ones that have been excessive? So I don't want them just all of a sudden be surprised.
Yeah, and we plan, because this is new, we plan to reach out and when they have two and say, hey, this is just a reminder, this is what we have in place, and we'll be happy to come out, under a non-alarm and help you. But if we do get to that point, then you'll be receiving a bill for the first offense.
All right, great, thank you. We have another item, Chief, in your department. Item 11, establish the fire prevention specialist 1, 2, is that what it is? 1 through 2,
Yes.
classifications, and adopt associated classification specification, examination plans, and salary ranges.
Yes, Mayor, this item will actually be presented, though, by our Human Resources Director, Rebecca Reddick.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I have two items for you this evening. They're both classification related. This one restructures the existing fire prevention specialist classification into a 2-level. So fire prevention specialist 1, fire prevention specialist 2. With the unfreezing of the citywide unfreezing of positions and the adoption of a 5% overall vacancy rate, with that, Human Resources worked directly with the fire department to see if we could find some efficiencies and assist in creating this classification where it would provide the fire marshal an additional level, a higher level of an employee to assign more complex plan checks, more complex fire inspections too. So this position was approved in the adopted FY 22-23 budget, but we have been working closely with the City Employees Association to meet and confer and agree on a job description for it. The exam plan remains the same, 100% structured technical interview, and the differential in the salary range between the top of the range for the Fire Prevention 1 and the Fire Prevention 2 is 10%. I am available for any questions that you may have on this.
I'm not seeing any. All right, thank you. So we have 3 items before us. We can take the first 2 as one motion, which first be to approve the establishment of the fire prevention specialist 1 through 2 classification, second being to adopt the classification specification and examination plans for the fire prevention specialist 1 through 2 positions. We have a motion to approve those 2.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5-0. Mark, would you read the resolution before us, please?
Yes, Mayor and Council, a resolution establishing basic monthly salary range for full-time job classifications is ready for adoption.
Whoops, do we have a motion to approve?
Persick so moved.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. All right,
you.
you're gonna stay up here for the next one, I'm sure too, right? All right, item 12, convert the IS Information Systems Manager classification from civil service to at-will status and adopt a revised classification, specification, examination plan, and salary range. Mrs. Reddick.
Thank you. So the second item that we have tonight is consistent with other manager level positions that we have been converting from civil service to at-will status once the position becomes vacant. So currently this IS manager position is included in civil service, which requires successful completion of a 1-year probationary period to achieve the permanent status. And this position is included in our unrepresented management and confidential group. We feel as an organization that a division manager position holds a significant level of responsibility, and it is key in succession planning citywide. So if we have a person in this position, they have the potential to become a department director at one point in time. So with that, the at-will status provides an incentive to the employees in these manager level positions to maintain a higher level of performance and prepares them to progress in their career. The revisions to the class specification for this position align with other manager positions in the city. So it expands the experience requirement from 4 years to 5 years, which is consistent with the other positions. However, with this one, in collaborating with our new IT director, we decided to include some flexibility in the language that may open it up to a wider candidate pool when it becomes vacant or later this month. So that provides, substituting education instead of experience is an alternate way to qualify for the position. We most recently did this with the assistant city clerk position earlier this year. There are no changes to the recommended exam plan. It's 100% interview. The salary range is the same, although I do have a resolution in here to reapprove it. And the placement in the unrepresented management and confidential group is the same. I do want to point out that the position won't become vacant until October 25th. So the current incumbent, the at-will status would not impact the incumbent, but we do plan to expedite a recruitment and get it open as soon as possible.
Great. Any questions or comments? Okay, I suggest we take the first two items as one motion. They are to approve the conversion of the IS manager classification from civil service to at-will status, and 2, to adopt the revised classification, specification, examination plan, and salary range for the IS manager position. And we do have a resolution on that, but we can do this first, right, Madam Clerk? These two. Do we have a motion to approve the two mentioned?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Mr. Hensley,
Mayor
please.
and Council, a resolution modifying basic monthly salary range for full-time job classifications is ready for adoption.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Reddick. Thank you, Ms. Chiefley. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have City Clerk report this evening.
Sure. Just want to announce, we have it on our calendar, we have it on our website, but for anyone interested, there will be a candidates forum for City Council at ISMOA on October 13th at 6:30 p.m. And there will be a second one, October 19th, 6:30 p.m. at the El Segundo Women's Club. And the one at the Women's Club, El Segundo TV will record, so it will be on YouTube for residents to review once it's finished.
Do either of those require registration? I feel like Asmoa did in the past just because of limited space, but I can't recall.
I don't have that information. I do know the one for the El Segundo Women's Club, they have a link that you can ask questions prior, and you may
Okay.
also ask them when you get there.
Okay.
As far as registration goes, I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Okay. It's been a while. Don't recall. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. City Treasurer's not here. Councilmember Giroux.
Nothing for me this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Nickel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know many times we'll bring employees up and recognize them for, acts of, kindness or going above and beyond the call of duty. I was talking to Daryl about this in my one-on-one a couple weeks ago. So the Kiwanis had the fair, and part of that is the setup crew gets here at 5:30. Well, so I'm in the parking lot on the side of the fire department at 5:30, and city staff's already working. The roads are already being closed. City vehicles are being parked to block off all the roads. And, you have the usual suspects. You have the Garrett Quaintance is always out there with the street crew. And you have Beto Moreno. They're always out there, and they're always smiling. They're never upset. And, there's always hey, wait, what are we supposed to do here? How do we do this? What do we need here? Yada, yada, yada. And working with those guys is fantastic, and they're usually the morning crew. So then breakdown comes, 5 o'clock. And I spotted Beto back there, out in the street. And I said to Barry Gribben, who runs the fair for Kiwanis, I said, Barry, what is Beto doing here? He was here this morning at 5, maybe 4:30 at the yard. And he said, I asked him the same thing, Scott, and Beto said, I'm going to be retiring soon. This is my last fair. I just wanted to be here to make sure that it got done right. And so I made a point to walk over in the street and, thank him for being there. But I was telling Daryl, I said, Beto's not here. I wouldn't make him come to a late meeting. He gets off fairly early. So, but I just wanted to give him kudos for that. And I was thinking about it when the Herald, the Herald had a full page of pictures of, all the fair goers, right? And it always hits me that it's things like that, community events in our community, they do not happen without a beautiful partnership between our community services, our city staff, and all the volunteers that put these things on, And so I made kind of a mental note to myself that next year I'm going to take pictures at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning of all the city staff working and all the volunteers out there early in the morning having coffee. And I'm going to send them to the Herald, and I'm going to hope that the Herald publishes, some of hey, here's what makes the magic happen. Disneyland doesn't just happen like that, But so I wanted to recognize Beto. I think he's awesome. Hopefully when his final day comes that we'll have him up and give him a key to the city and all that good stuff, But that's what I got. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Nickel. Love that. Councilmember Perstuck.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know it is homecoming week at El Segundo High School, and myself and Tracy are actually have an alumni party coming up this week. And so this is the week where each class builds a float by hand, everything, they have to do it themselves, and the parade will be on Friday. So it's really quite fun to watch, and I'm always amazed at the talent of these high schoolers and what they produce on the float. So if you can get out there and watch it on Friday, it's quite spectacular. But enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perstuck. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, a couple quick things. We had our first convening of mayors with Supervisor Holly Mitchell 2 weeks ago, I believe now, at the new county building, which is in Koreatown, actually. Beautiful new building. And she had a good turnout, and it was really good to meet everyone and her staff and hear more about her initiatives and hear more about some of the things coming down the pike. The Imperial Median, I want to thank staff and Kevin Keller in Mayor Garcetti's office and CEO Justin Urbacci for getting that median squared away. Hopefully we can keep them on it to maintain it, because right after they cleaned it, within 2 days, there was trash already in it. So I don't know how people can, it just blows my mind that people are throwing trash on the street, on the median. But it looks better than it did for sure. So thank you to everything you've done. And I want to wish everyone a happy Yom Kippur, and we're going to turn it over to the city attorney.
Yes, Mayor and Council, September 30th was the last day for the governor to sign bills, the last legislative period. There are a number of new housing bills, once again, aimed at affordable housing. I've been provided some information to Planning, Building, and Safety Director Michael Allen, and we'll attempt to come back to the council at one of the next couple of meetings and provide an overview of these bills. They're pretty complex as far as what they've tried to do this term with a couple of these bills is give builders by right the right to just come in and build affordable units on property, and it's not quite that simple. There are a lot of exceptions and rules and requirements, but we'll come forward the next couple of meetings and brief the council and the community on those. I don't think we've had a year now in the last 7 or 8 years where we haven't had numerous housing bills out of Sacramento, and they're hard to keep up with, but we will bring forward a summary in the next couple of meetings.
Mark, I think I saw, I don't know if it was a COG meeting, maybe Chris remembers, but there were like 8 that were up for signature.
Yes.
Unbelievable, like the most number of housing bills, wasn't it? Seems like
3 or 4 years ago, there were like
more.
10 to 15 or something, but yeah, I mean, not all those got signed, but there were a couple of really significant ones, AB 2011 and SB 6, which got a lot of attention, but there were others, yes. But we'll, again, bring forward summaries of those, and I expect next year we'll have more.
Good news is we got the Regional Housing Trust Fund bill signed by the governor that came out of the South Bay City COG. It actually started with the ICA, or Contract Cities, where Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel sits. You still sit on that? I can't remember.
Not since we moved it out of that committee.
Right. But anyway, that's good news, and Ben Allen spearheaded that, authored that, so that was signed. Now we just have to find the money, which is a big deal. We got to find the money to seed that thing.
Yep.
But it's progress nonetheless. Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, thank you.
Yeah. City Manager.
Yes, just one item, Mayor. During the Chevron check presentation, they had mentioned that the city is a finalist for the Most Business-Friendly City Award, and that award ceremony put on by the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation is November 9th at 5:30 at SoFi Stadium. And I'm going to have Mashia reach out to you to see if you're available and would like to attend that event, because I think we need to get a count into them sooner than later. So it's November 9th at 5:30. That's it. Thank you.
That's a Wednesday.
That's a Wednesday. Thank you. Yeah. All right, we're going to go back into closed session. Thank you very much.